and welcome back to LendAPI Academy. My name is Kay, and this is our Rules Studio series. In this series, we're going to be exploring all of the different functions and features of our Rules Studio and Decision Engine 2.0. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create a nested rule within our Rules Studio. So, to get started, when we navigate to our Rules Studio, we have our starting node here. When you click on a node, a lot of questions we often get is, how do I create more than one piece of logic inside of one node? Well, the answer is it's pretty easy. You can do so right here in the node itself. You'll see in the rules block that you have these components, the and ors of the rule. So when you're ready, in this instance, I'm going to be creating a logic that only allows users to be able to originate a loan in certain states. Of course, I want to do more than one state, so the best way to go about it is to make sure I knock out everyone that's not in the state. And instead of creating a bunch of different trees and instances, I want to do it all in one fell swoop in one node. So I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to start with a few states. So the first state I want in this block is Florida. So I'm going to enter in my variable, and I'm going to make sure that all the states that are inputted contain the FL abbreviation of Florida. Now, there's one specific variation, and the reason I chose states is because within the LendAPI, states have to be utilized in the abbreviated form when we associate them in the Rule Studio. They cannot be fully typed out like Florida or Virginia, but instead we have to use them in the abbreviated FLVA system. This only applies to states. Everything else is in the fully fledged system. So now I want to add another state. So I'm going to go ahead and add this rule here in the Add Rule button. And I'm going to add in a variable state. And I'm going to say contains Virginia, VA. So you'll see here in the expression, it's changed. The logic is if state variable contains FL and VA, this will be a pass. Now, because, of course, you can't be in two states at once, we actually don't want the AND logic operator. We want an OR logic operator, which means if a state contains Florida or Virginia, it should pass as the next step. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this AND to an OR, and all you have to do is set it up here. And then you'll see here that the state contains a Florida or a Virginia in order to pass. And we're going to add one more. That our state and contains California. And you'll see here, if a state contains Florida or Virginia or California, these are the logics that will pass. So for example, I only have lending licenses in these three states. I want to knock out everything else. This would be how I go about to nest all of the rules in one node. Now, for governance and sanity check, I can see, okay, once I start this particular decision tree, the first thing I'll see is the expression state contains Florida or state contains Virginia or state contains California. And I can navigate forward that way. Of course, navigating back, you'll see one more instance in the nested space that we haven't talked about, and that's group. A group is essentially running all the variables at once. So for us, because the nodes are reading one or multiple variables at a time, we can actually group them together. So let's say I want to leverage this instance to knock out Florida, Virginia, and California out. And then the next logic would be I want to knock out Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. I would contain the first set of logic in one group and then the next set of logic in another group. So that way, it runs one group as one rule and another group as another rule. It allows you for more variation and bundling of these rules. So the best way to think about this is if you have very complex systems and rules in place. For example, I am looking at VantageScore and trade lines for banks. If these pass, then they technically qualify. But if they don't pass, I have another set of logic. I want to look at, let's say, VantageScore and trade lines for assets. And I have certain logic to do so. I can set them here in my Rule Studio as groups. So then it tells the platform to read one group at a time and treat each group as one single logic container. So that is where groups come in to place. Of course, you'll see once you create a group, you can add as many variables into each group as you need. And with the Rule Studio, you can have as much nested groups as you want. And of course, for our platform, we leverage it in a way that you yourself can start to actually taper and figure out how you want to create your system, whether it's through this group method and reading logic or through a tree format where it reads each node at a time. So with that, let's go ahead and make some updates. Now, let's wrap up our decision tree. So we only want to lend in these states. So then if the state does contain one of these, we're going to approve and allow the user to continue forward. And of course, if they don't, we are going to decline with an action. And let's test our rule. So we're going to utilize one of our states, California, and we get an approved. And of course, let's utilize our state, Texas. That's not in there. We get a decline. And one more, Virginia, and approve. So this works, and this is how you create nested logic per node. Please follow us and subscribe for more content in our channel. Thank you.